The Silent Approach. Commander Elena Voss stood in the observation deck of the UNSC Phantom, watching the stars blur past as her ship cut through the void of space. She was 42 years old, with silver streaks in her dark hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. For the past 3 months, she had been leading a reconnaissance mission deep into uncharted territory, far beyond the edges of human-controlled space. What she had discovered would change everything. The Kralix Empire was coming. Intelligence reports had been vague at first, scattered transmissions picked up by listening posts on the frontier. But Elena had pushed deeper into the darkness, following the trail of signals and energy signatures. What she found made her blood run cold. Beyond the Veil Nebula, hidden in a region of space that humanity had never explored, the Kralix had assembled an invasion fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 6,000 warships. The number seemed impossible, but Elena had counted them herself. She had watched from the shadows as the alien vessels gathered, their massive hulls glowing with strange bioluminescent patterns. Each ship was the size of a small city, armed with weapons that could crack planets. The Kralix themselves were an ancient race, conquerors who had built their empire over millennia by crushing every species they encountered. Now they had turned their attention to humanity. Elena returned to the bridge, where her crew worked in silence. The Phantom was a stealth vessel, one of only 12 in the entire United Nations Space Command. It was designed for one purpose: to move through enemy territory without being detected. Every surface was coated in adaptive camouflage that bent light and sensor waves. Its engines ran cold, producing almost no heat signature. Even its communication systems were designed to be invisible, using quantum entanglement to send messages that could not be intercepted. Lieutenant Marcus Chen looked up from his station. He was young, barely 30, but he had proven himself brilliant at electronic warfare. His fingers moved across holographic displays as he monitored the Kralix fleet's movements. "Commander," he said quietly, "they are preparing to move. I am detecting power surges across their entire formation. They will be ready to jump to human space within 72 hours. Elena felt the weight of that statement settle on her shoulders. 72 hours. 3 days before the largest invasion force in galactic history descended on human worlds. Earth's military could field perhaps 800 warships if they gathered every vessel from every colony. Against 6,000 Kralix ships, humanity would be swept away like dust in a storm. But Elena Voss had not survived 20 years in the UNSC by giving up when the odds looked bad. She turned to her tactical officer, a woman named Sarah Okonkwo who had grown up on Mars and joined the military to protect her family. "Sarah," she said, "pull up the tactical analysis we have been working on. Show me the Kralix formation patterns again." Sarah's fingers danced across her console, and the main view screen filled with a three-dimensional map of the enemy fleet. The Kralix ships were arranged in a complex pattern, clusters of vessels connected by what appeared to be energy fields. Elena had been studying this formation for weeks, trying to understand it. The Kralix were not just gathered randomly. They were linked together somehow, their ships forming a network. Dr. James Rivera approached from the science station. He was the oldest member of the crew, a physicist who had spent his career studying alien technology. "Commander," he said, "I have been analyzing the energy readings from their formation. I believe I understand what they are doing. The Kralix ships are not individual vessels. They are nodes in a massive distributed system. Each ship is connected to the others through quantum field generators. It makes them incredibly powerful, but it also creates a vulnerability." Elena turned to face him, interest sparking in her eyes. "What kind of vulnerability?" "If we could disrupt the quantum fields that connect them," Rivera explained, "the entire network would collapse. Their ships would lose coordination. Their defensive systems would fail. But it would require hitting multiple nodes simultaneously with precisely calibrated weapons. The timing would have to be perfect." Elena looked back at the display, her mind racing through possibilities. "How many nodes would we need to hit?" "At minimum, 12. But ideally, we would target 20 or more to ensure complete network failure. And how many ships do we have in range that could execute this kind of attack? Rivera hesitated. That is the problem, Commander. We only have the Phantom. We would need at least 20 stealth ships to pull this off, and we only have one. Elena smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. Then we will have to make it work with what we have. Marcus, send an encrypted message back to Earth Command. Tell them what we have found and what we are planning. Use the Ghost Protocol. Marcus looked shocked. Commander, the Ghost Protocol has never been tested in combat. We do not even know if it will work against Kralix sensors. Then I guess we are about to find out, Elena said calmly. Sarah, plot an intercept course. We are going into the heart of their fleet. The crew exchanged glances. What Elena was suggesting was insane. The Ghost Protocol was humanity's most closely guarded secret, a technology so advanced that only a handful of people in the entire UNSC knew it existed. It was based on quantum phase shifting, a way of making a ship exist slightly out of sync with normal spacetime. In theory, it would make the Phantom completely invisible and intangible to any known sensor system. In theory. But theories had a way of failing when you needed them most. If the Ghost Protocol did not work, the Phantom would be detected the moment it entered the Kralix formation. 6,000 warships would open fire simultaneously. The Phantom would be vaporized before anyone on board even knew they were dead. Elena looked at each member of her crew in turn. I will not order you to do this, she said. This is a volunteer mission. If any of you want to stay behind, you can take the escape pods. No one will think less of you. The silence that followed was complete. Then, one by one, each crew member nodded. They had all known what they were signing up for when they joined the stealth service. They were humanity's shadows, the ones who went into the darkness so that others could live in the light. Marcus broke the silence. Commander, I am receiving a response from Earth Command. They are authorizing the mission. They are also sending reinforcements. Apparently, there are more stealth ships than we thought. Elena raised an eyebrow. How many? 11 more. They have been operating under deep cover protocols, scattered across the frontier. Earth Command is pulling them all in for this operation. They will rendezvous with us at the edge of the Veil Nebula in 18 hours. Elena felt hope stir in her chest. 12 ships. Exactly what they needed. The timing was tight, but it was possible. Sarah, she said, get us moving. We have a fleet to destroy. The Phantom accelerated smoothly, its engines pushing the ship toward the Kralix Armada. Elena watched the alien vessels grow larger on the viewscreen, their bioluminescent patterns pulsing like the heartbeat of some vast creature. She thought about Earth, about the billions of people who had no idea what was coming for them. She thought about her daughter, Emily, who was studying medicine at the academy on Luna. Emily was 20 years old, full of hope and dreams for the future. Elena had not seen her in 6 months. She wondered if she would ever see her again. The hours passed slowly. The Phantom moved through space like a ghost, silent and invisible. Around them, Kralix patrol ships passed by, their sensors sweeping the void but finding nothing. The Ghost Protocol was working. Elena allowed herself a moment of relief, but she knew the real test was still ahead. 18 hours later, the other stealth ships began to arrive. They appeared on the Phantom's sensors one by one, quantum signatures that only another stealth ship could detect. Elena recognized some of the commanders. Captain Lu Wei of the UNSC Shadow, a veteran who had served in the Outer Rim conflicts. Commander Amara Osei of the UNSC Wraith, who had once single-handedly saved a colony from pirate raiders. These were the best of the best, the elite of the stealth service. Elena opened a secure channel to all 12 ships. This is Commander Voss, she said. You all know the mission. We are going to hit the Kralix network nodes simultaneously. Each ship has been assigned 3 targets. The timing has to be perfect. We fire on my mark, not a second before or after. If we succeed, we will cripple their entire fleet. If we fail, humanity will face extinction. No pressure. There was a ripple of dark laughter across the channel. Gallows humor was common among soldiers who faced death regularly. Elena continued. We go in silent. Full ghost protocol. Do not fire your weapons until the moment of attack. Once we engage, all hell will break loose. Be ready to adapt. These aliens have been conquering worlds for thousands of years. They will not go down easy. The 12 stealth ships formed up in a loose formation and began their approach. They moved through the Kralix fleet like sharks swimming through a school of fish. The alien vessels were so massive that the human ships looked like insects by comparison. Elena watched the tactical display, seeing her tiny ship weave between hulls the size of mountains. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. They reached the heart of the formation, where the largest Kralix vessels clustered together. These were the command ships, the nodes that controlled the entire network. Elena selected her 3 targets, massive dreadnoughts that glowed with golden light. Around her, the other 11 commanders were doing the same, each choosing their targets with care. Stand by, Elena said softly. Weapons hot. Lock on targets. Wait for my mark. The second stretched out like hours. Elena's heart pounded in her chest. Everything humanity had fought for, everything they had built, came down to this moment. 12 ships against 6,000. It should have been impossible. But humans had built their entire civilization on doing the impossible. Fire, Elena said. 12 stealth ships opened fire simultaneously. Weapons that had been designed specifically to disrupt quantum fields lanced out across the darkness. They were not explosive weapons or energy beams. They were reality disruptors, devices that could tear apart the fabric of spacetime itself. The beams struck the Kralix command ships, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire Kralix fleet began to scream. Dawn of a new era. The Kralix network collapsed in an instant. 6,000 warships that had been moving in perfect coordination suddenly became 6,000 individual vessels with no idea what was happening. Their quantum field generators overloaded, sending cascades of energy rippling through the fleet. Ships that had been linked together for months suddenly found themselves alone, their systems failing, their weapons offline, their shields flickering and dying. Commander Elena Voss watched from the bridge of the Phantom as chaos erupted across the enemy formation. The massive Kralix dreadnoughts were the first to fall. Their hulls cracked open as internal explosions tore through them, the result of quantum field backlash. Secondary detonations followed as power cores went critical. Ships that had seemed invincible moments ago were now breaking apart, their pieces tumbling through space like broken toys. All ships, Elena said into the fleet channel, commence secondary attack pattern. Target their command structures. Do not let them reorganize. The 12 stealth ships spread out through the Kralix formation, moving with deadly purpose. They were no longer hiding. The Ghost Protocol had been deactivated, and now the human vessels revealed themselves, small and fast and incredibly dangerous. They darted between the massive alien ships, firing precisely aimed shots at communication arrays and sensor clusters. Every shot was calculated to cause maximum disruption. Captain Lu Wei commanded the UNSC Shadow with the skill of a surgeon. His ship moved through the chaos like a dancer, avoiding debris and returned fire with impossible grace. He had been born on Earth, in the mountains of China, and he had learned patience and precision from his grandfather, a master of traditional martial arts. Now he applied those lessons to warfare. His weapons officer, a man named Chen Tao, fired with mechanical accuracy. Each shot found its target, destroying critical systems on ship after ship. Lu Wei opened a channel to his crew. Remember what we are fighting for, he said calmly. Every ship we destroy here is a ship that will not reach Earth. Every alien commander we kill is a commander who will not threaten our families. Show them what humans can do. The Shadow's crew worked with fierce determination. They had all lost someone to alien aggression over the years. Chen Tao's parents had died in a raid on a frontier colony. The navigation officer, a woman named Park Ji-won, had watched her entire homeworld burn during a pirate attack that the Kralix had secretly funded. This was personal for all of them. Meanwhile, Commander Amara Osei led the UNSC Wraith into the densest part of the Kralix formation. Amara had grown up on a mining station in the asteroid belt, where life was hard and death was always one mistake away. She had learned to be fearless because fear got you killed in the belt. Now she used that fearlessness to strike at the heart of the enemy fleet. The Wraith was equipped with experimental weapons, plasma torpedoes that could burn through almost any armor. Amara selected the largest Kralix carrier she could find, a vessel so massive it had its own gravitational field. She brought her ship in close, dangerously close, until the Wraith was flying through the carrier's defensive perimeter. Alarms screamed on her bridge as Kralix point defense systems locked onto them. "Hold steady," Amara commanded. "Weapons officer, fire all torpedoes on my mark." She waited, counting seconds, until the Wraith was directly beneath the carrier's main reactor complex. Now. 6 plasma torpedoes launched simultaneously, streaking upward into the carrier's belly. They penetrated the hull and detonated inside the reactor chamber. The explosion was spectacular, a miniature sun that bloomed in the darkness of space. The Kralix carrier broke in half, its 2 sections drifting apart as atmosphere and debris vented from the wound. Thousands of aliens died in seconds, but Amara felt no guilt. These were the same aliens who had been planning to do far worse to humanity. The Wraith pulled away just as the carrier's power core went critical. The secondary explosion was even larger than the first, a shockwave that rippled out across the battlefield. 3 nearby Kralix ships were caught in the blast and destroyed. Amara allowed herself a grim smile. "That is for the colonies you burned," she thought. Across the battlefield, the other stealth ships were having similar success. The Kralix fleet was in complete disarray. Their commanders were trying desperately to establish communication, to reorganize their forces, but the human attacks had been too precise. Every command ship was either destroyed or crippled. The network that had made them so powerful was gone, and without it, they were just individual ships facing an enemy they did not understand. On the bridge of the Phantom, Dr. Rivera was monitoring the alien communications. "Commander," he said urgently, "I am picking up broadcasts from the Kralix flagship. They are trying to call for reinforcements." Elena made a quick decision. "Marcus, jam their transmissions. I do not want anyone coming to help them. Sarah, plot a course to their flagship. We are going to end this personally." The Phantom accelerated toward the largest vessel in the Kralix fleet, a massive command ship that dwarfed even the carriers. It was called the Eternal Conquest, and it had led the Kralix to victory in 100 campaigns. The ship was shaped like a crescent moon, with thousands of weapon ports bristling along its length. Even crippled, it was still incredibly dangerous. As the Phantom approached, the Kralix flagship opened fire. Energy beams lanced out across space, trying to track the small human ship. Elena's pilot, a young officer named David Reeves, flew with inspired skill. He had grown up playing virtual combat games and had always dreamed of being a pilot. Now he was living that dream, and he was not going to waste it. The Phantom twisted and turned, dodging fire that would have vaporized it instantly. "Bring us in close," Elena ordered. "I want to deliver a message these aliens will never forget." The Phantom flew directly at the Eternal Conquest, so close that the crew could see individual details on the alien hull. There were markings there, symbols that represented each world the Kralix had conquered. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Each symbol was a civilization that had been crushed, a species that had been enslaved or exterminated. Elena felt cold anger settle in her chest. "Fire all weapons," she said quietly. The Phantom unleashed everything it had. Missiles, plasma cannons, reality disruptors, all firing at point-blank range directly into the Kralix flagship's bridge section. The alien ship's shields were already weakened from the network collapse, and they could not stop the barrage. Explosions rippled across the Eternal Conquest's hull. Atmosphere vented into space. The ship's lights flickered and died. Inside the Kralix flagship, Overlord Kasix experienced fear for the first time in his long life. He was ancient by human standards, over 300 years old, and he had conquered more worlds than he could remember. He had always believed the Kralix were invincible, destined to rule the galaxy. Now his flagship was dying around him, and he finally understood what it felt like to be on the losing side of a war. His communications officer, a younger Kralix named Vorin, turned to him with desperation in his eyes. "Overlord, the fleet is destroyed. Over half our ships are gone. The rest are scattered and unable to coordinate. What are your orders?" Kasix looked at the tactical display, at the red markers that represented destroyed or disabled ships. In less than 2 hours, the humans had done what no species had managed in 1,000 years. They had broken the Kralix Empire. He thought about calling for a retreat, but he knew it was too late. The human ships were everywhere, hunting down any vessel that tried to escape. "Send a message to the human commander," Kasich said, his voice heavy with defeat. "Tell them I wish to negotiate." On the Phantom, Marcus received the transmission and looked at Elena with surprise. "Commander, the Kralix are asking to surrender." Elena considered for a moment. She thought about all the worlds the Kralix had destroyed, all the species they had enslaved. She thought about the human colonies that would have burned if this fleet had reached them. Then she thought about her daughter Emily, and about the future humanity deserved to have. "Tell them I will accept their surrender on one condition," Elena said. "They must provide us with the locations of every world they have conquered and every species they have enslaved. We are going to free them all." The message was sent, and moments later, the response came back. The Kralix agreed. They had no choice. Their fleet was broken, their power shattered. The mighty empire that had conquered 1,000 worlds had been brought down in a single night by 12 human ships. As dawn broke over the Veil Nebula, the last Kralix vessels surrendered. The space around them was filled with wreckage, the remains of thousands of warships that had seemed invincible just hours ago. The human stealth ships regrouped, their crews exhausted but victorious. They had lost no vessels. Not a single human ship had been destroyed. It was the most lopsided victory in military history. Elena stood in the observation deck of the Phantom, watching the sunrise paint colors across the nebula. She was tired, so tired that she could barely stand, but she felt something else too. Hope. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to believe that humanity had a future. Commander Amara Osei's voice came through on the fleet channel. "Commander Voss, I am picking up signals from nearby star systems. There are multiple species broadcasting distress calls. They have been enslaved by the Kralix for generations. They are asking for help." Elena smiled. "Then we help them. All ships, prepare for extended operations. Our mission has changed. We are no longer just defending humanity. We are liberating the galaxy." Over the next weeks, the 12 stealth ships spread out across Kralix territory. They found species that had been enslaved for centuries, civilizations that had almost forgotten what freedom meant. The humans freed them all, breaking chains and destroying Kralix occupation forces. Word spread quickly through the galaxy. Humanity had arrived, and they were not conquerors. They were liberators. Captain Lu Wei led the mission to free the Valdrani, a peaceful species of artists and philosophers who had been enslaved for over 200 years. When the last Kralix overseer was driven from their world, the Valdrani wept with joy. They created a monument to humanity, a towering sculpture that showed human and Valdrani hands clasped together in friendship. Commander Amara Osei liberated the Visien mining colonies, where thousands of aliens had been forced to work in brutal conditions. She personally arrested the Kralix commanders responsible and made sure they faced justice for their crimes. The Thexians declared her a hero and offered to join humanity's alliance. Back on Earth, news of the victory spread like wildfire. People celebrated in the streets, not just because humanity had been saved, but because they had proven something important. They had shown the galaxy that strength could be used for good, that power could be wielded with compassion. Humanity had been tested and had emerged not as conquerors, but as defenders of freedom. Elena Voss returned to Earth 3 months after the battle. She stepped off the shuttle on Luna Station and was immediately embraced by her daughter Emily. They held each other for a long time, neither speaking, both just grateful to be alive. Later, Elena was awarded the Star of Valor, the highest honor the United Nations could bestow. But the ceremony felt less important than the moment with her daughter. Standing before the assembled leaders of Earth, Elena gave a short speech. "We did not choose this war," she said. "But we chose how to fight it. We chose to stand against tyranny, to defend not just ourselves but all who could not defend themselves. That is what makes us human. Not our weapons or our technology, but our refusal to accept injustice. Today, we prove that humanity deserves a place among the stars. And we will continue to prove it, every single day, for as long as we exist." The galaxy would never be the same. The Kralix Empire collapsed completely within a year, its remaining forces surrendering or fleeing to the far edges of known space. The species that had been freed formed a new alliance with humanity at its center, not because humans demanded it, but because they had earned it through their actions. Commander Elena Voss retired from active service and became an advisor to the new Galactic Council. She spent her remaining years helping to build a better future, one where freedom and justice were not just ideals but realities. She lived to see her daughter become a doctor, treating patients from a dozen different species. She lived to see humanity establish colonies on worlds that had once been Kralix slave camps. She lived to see the dawn of a new era. And every night, when Elena looked up at the stars, she remembered that single moment when 12 ships had changed everything. She remembered the courage of her crew, the sacrifice of soldiers she had never met, and the dream of a galaxy where everyone could live free. Humanity had been tested in the darkness, and they had brought the dawn.